All right, today on the podcast, I have an awesome group of people. I have Kaylee Frederick, who just finished Badwater 135, who was the youngest finisher ever. I have her mother, Georgetta. Um, I have Andrew Boyd, who is a crew member, and I have Fran Brown, who is a crew member of Kaylees as well. So first and foremost, congratulations to Kaylee on being not only a finisher, but the youngest finisher ever of Badwater 135, the hardest foot race in America. So if you guys just want to give a brief introduction to yourselves, and we'll start with some questions after that.
All right. Well, I'll start. I'm Kaylee, and I just ran Badwater 135. Like Dean said, it's the toughest foot race in the world. I've been running since I was 7 years old, and this has been a dream of mine for I don't even know how many years. So, yeah, I'm excited to tell you all about it.
I'm Mom, Georgetta. But anyway, I introduced myself to Mom to most people at these races because I'm there for Kaylee and just support crew and supporting her in all of her journeys.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. I'm Andrew Boyd. I live in Ligonier, so just over the other side of the mountain from Kaylee and Georgetta. We call her Captain Mom. That's better put that way. But yeah, I was part of the crew for Kaylee this year at Badwater.
Awesome. So I'm Fran Brown. I was also part of the crew. It was pretty awesome that I got a chance to be a part of this. This was pretty awesome. And it's as you can tell, all of us are runners. Some of us have done lots of ultras. Some of us have done a few of ultras, and we all kind of fall in different layers in terms of what kind of runners we are. But I had a blast, and I look forward to hearing this story all over and over again.
All right. Well, I guess the most important and the thing that people are going to want to know the most is, how does it feel to be the youngest Badwater finisher, and what made you want to run the race and set out to be the youngest?
Well, it's really very amazing. I never expected to be here and do that. So I was like on top of the world. I got to the finish and I just started crying. It was amazing. And a couple years ago, my friend Keith Straw told me he'd run the race 8 times, and he told me, I think you could be the youngest person to ever do it. And then ever since then, I've wanted to do it, and I finally became the youngest person to do it. And it was I was on top of the world. I could not believe I actually had just run the world's toughest foot race.
So we have Keith to blame for such an awesome goal then, because I know Keith, and he's such an awesome dude as well, and a very accomplished ultra runner.
Yeah, we can blame Keith. He actually just finished this year for his 9th finish this year. We can blame him.
He's I've met him a few times, and he's definitely a shirt off your back type of guy where he'll do anything for anybody. So getting to know him and having him on your side is just another amazing thing as well. So how did you guys decide that you guys wanted to be part of Kaylee's crew, and what drew you into that?
I guess for me, I kind of followed along with Kaylee's journey a little bit over news feeds and stories told on Facebook. And I mean, I kind of knew Georgetta and Kaylee a little bit from CrossFit days, and I already knew they were fantastic people. I already knew they had incredible work ethic. So it wasn't, it didn't take me very long after reading Georgetta posting on Facebook they were looking to put together a crew, that I was like, oh, you know what? That sounds like a phenomenal time. That sounds like it will be epic. And even then, I didn't really have much of a doubt that Kaylee was going to train appropriately, and that her mom also would be training and guiding her along as she went forward with this journey. So the idea of hopping on board was just like a matter of, making the semantics work on my end more than anything else. And that part of it was, kind of sitting down for like a half a second and saying, okay, do I want to do, the running training? Do I want to do the sauna training? Am I going to actually put in that work and effort? Because you don't want to jump on a team unless you're going to make sure that you're ready as well. I mean, nobody wants that dead weight. So ultimately it was, really a split second decision. I was like, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, I knew of Kaylee before I ever met her personally. I'm part of the Johnstown Running Club. At least I was just mostly Facebook. And I followed kind of her journey at that point. And then she did the Laurel Highlands 70 unofficially. And I thought that was pretty cool. And a lot of my ultra friends were actually helping her with that. Dean, I believe you even ran a leg of that during that. So I followed her journey on that. And when she put it out on Facebook, I had to run it past my wife, but I had just finished reading a book about Badwater 135 and it intrigued me. And it's not typically a race that I would want to sign up for, but it's one that I was very interested in. Just how difficult it sounded. We don't have heat like that around here, so experiencing something like that. So after discussing it with my wife and getting the approval on that end, I was all in. And like Fran said, then the training kind of started, and I had the miles in. I wasn't worried about maybe my legs, but I hadn't run in heat like that. So I found out real quickly sauna training's not for me, but we grinded it out. We got through it, and it was awesome and a real privilege to be part of her team.
Georgetta?
Oh, me. Okay. Well, I'm just like, I don't know. For me, it's been trying to be a very big support, I guess. In our lives, we go through things that make us better or bitter. And my history, my upbringing wasn't the best. I didn't have very good support, like I wish I would have had. And so I didn't want to pass that on. So I made it, and wow. I decided to make sure that I was the best support that I could be to both of my girls. And Kaylee's journey this is Kaylee's journey. So I've just been trying my best to be everywhere I could be, and involved in every way I can in order to support her and lift her up and get her to where she wants to be. She obviously has to put in the work herself, but having really good support makes that journey easier. It just, because it's hard to do by yourself. So anyway, when she started talking about this at the beginning of the year about applying, we really had very little hope that she was going to get in because of the age requirement thing. At the time was 19, and they decided to change it because of email that she and Keith sent. And then it was like, okay, well, here we are, game on, we got to start making the preparations. And then we just did, and so we've all put in a lot of work. So grateful for the crew that we have, because everybody did put in the work and everybody worked really well together out there. And that was so big. That was like such a huge thing. It just kind of just meshed, and it was great. It was really, really great.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, whether it's like it's an individual performance, but it takes a village to accomplish, because like being Badwater, I don't know if a lot of people know, obviously you guys know now, it's not like an aid station type race. You actually have to provide your own crew. So you actually have to rely on others. And then like having pacers and just the crew in general is just such a huge part of the race itself. It's one of those things that Kaylee just, we'll put it frankly, she kicks so much ass out there. But again, you still have to have your community support. And she has such a community support, whether it be like you guys going or just the people around here, just like the community just sort of, I guess, flocked together just to like support her in general, which was very awesome to see how many people posted all day long, like post after post, update after update. It was just amazing to see throughout the day and her preparation beforehand.
Yeah, it took me like 6 hours to go through all the social media after the race, just because there were so many people who followed along everything. Very, very grateful. I did not even realize how much support I had until after, whenever I finally got on my phone and looked through everything. I was like, wow, it's crazy. And yeah, our crew did great. A few people, as in Andrew and my mom, forgot to go to sleep the whole time. But yeah, they did a very great job and they were very much there for me. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without them, because I don't think anyone could run that without a crew. You would probably die out there in the heat. But it was very, very, very great to have them. They were all super positive and motivational and had everything I needed. Even if I was bleeding everywhere, Andrew came running back with a paper towel for me and everything. It was good.
So you fell then or something that you were bleeding?
No, I just got 3 bloody noses.
I'm guessing that was just from like the humidity being so dry, not used to it then.
Yeah, yeah, it was great.
So how did you actually train for this race? Because being in PA, it's a completely different atmosphere out there at Badwater than it is here.
Yeah, so I used a sauna and I was in there for a heck of a long time. And I trained with layers. I got like a sauna suit that I used. I ran with that a lot down in North Carolina when I was visiting Brett. And then just a lot of mileage, which that's just kind of a given for any race, you know. But the heat training was super, super important. And it wasn't even the same as it was down there, but really any amount of training you could get in was beneficial.
What kind of mileage did you put in like per week, or what was your like goal, or was it more like per fill type deal?
A little bit of both. I did a couple like back-to-back ultra marathons for high training on tired legs, which also helps me out for Eastern States. That's really good training for that too. And then I did like close to 100-mile weeks, and then I started like 2 or 3 weeks before I started doing less mileage, just to make sure I didn't get hurt, because I knew I could do the mileage. That's not the issue. So like 2 or 3 weeks before, I just focused on the runs that I did do. I had a lot of layers on and stuff, because I know I could go the distance. It's if I could go the distance in the heat.
That makes a lot of sense. How did you guys as well? Like, did you have like the same kind of training, like layers and like sauna suits and anything like that?
Yeah, as part of the crew, I wanted to make sure that when I was need to pace that I'd be ready. So I have a treadmill in above my garage, and it has electric heat. So I turn the heat up to 90, and I'd put on some sweatshirts and things like that, sweatpants, and run in that. And then I spent a ton of time in the sauna, as much as I could stand without maybe passing out. So those were my heat training. And then miles wise, I had a pretty good base going into it. I did the Laurel 70, and I knew I wasn't going to be running any stretches like that. So I wasn't worried as far as the mileage goes, but the heat's a different animal.
Yeah, I also spent a good amount of time kind of putting myself in situations where I was in a higher heat element. Anytime it was like hottest part of the day, I was out running outside on the high heat track at UPJ. I actually, like, if you pan this way, you'll notice there's a treadmill sitting next to a portable sauna. That was an Amazon purchase. That has come in really handy for sauna training. I would just sit in there for about a half hour, then pop out, run on the treadmill, then pop back in the sauna. So it was a good way to sort of add that heat element. And thankfully, actually, I really like running in the heat anyway, so it really wasn't that terrible for me. But yeah, and having spent a lot of time running with track and field up at UPJ, it was easy to just kind of continue the mileage. Kicking out like 4 to 5 miles at a time is relatively easy for me. So I wasn't really concerned about pacer distances. And, it was like if I was asked to do 8 or 10, I could do that relatively simply. Running 135, no, I would not be doing that. So, but thankfully we left that to Kaylee and she rocked it. So it was awesome.
So I also spent time at the sauna. I did my goal was 4 to 5 times per week. And the time was generally at least 30 minutes. I did work up to an hour on some days. And then I just practiced my running, trained with running normally, except that I would wear pants instead of shorts, even though it was hot. I know from previous experience of pacing with Kaylee and going into this that we would not be as pacers running like extreme distances. We were going to be taking turns and running 3-4 miles at a time. And I know that I can do that whenever with her doing these long races, because then it's not about speed. This is about pacing and getting through to the end and having your body be well enough to last through the end. So with that means your pacing is generally going to be a bit slower. You're not going to be putting out 8-minute miles probably anywhere in this kind of race. And so having paced with her numerous times before, I knew I could handle the pace that she would be going within this race. So I wasn't concerned either about that. It was just a little more about trying to be used to being in the heat, because it's just not that hot here. And it's not been hot here for the last couple of weeks before this race. It was not hot. So I wish it would have been, but it wasn't. So anyhow, that's what I did.
Yeah, you really actually, like I said, like being a PA, you really just can't train for that condition unless, like you said, you guys like the sauna suits and going to a sauna in general. Other than that, we're on like the short end of the stick when it comes to that type of thing. So Kaylee, you got accepted back in February, I believe, because I remember it was like at Frozen Snot and stuff. I saw a post like that day. So how did you actually stay motivated for months? I mean, granted, you had this as a goal, but how did you stay motivated, mentally and physically to do this?
It actually really wasn't difficult at all because I knew I got in on February 4th when I really had the announcement. So I had 5 months to train. The race was on July 4th. So I just knew I had to stay, like I just knew I had to do it. It wasn't like I didn't really drag my feet all the time. I mean, sometimes there were long runs I didn't want to get up and do on Saturday morning or something, but I just knew I had to because this was my dream. I chose this. I paid for this. I wanted to do it. And I knew if I wanted a chance to finish this race, that I just had to put in the work no matter what. It really wasn't difficult for me to stay motivated because I wanted this so bad. And this was such a big dream of mine. I just had to do it. And it was very, very, very worth it.
Yeah, because I mean, even just to have the dream is just amazing itself because, I mean, obviously you have the ability. Like, I think, Andrew and Fran and Georgetta, they also have like the ability, but just the dream itself and wanting to start and toe that line is just such a huge thing to be even, I guess, I don't know how to say it, but like wanting to do that thing is just like so huge, like mentally and physically, like just to stay motivated. Just to me, I don't want to necessarily do it because I know how much it's going to take out of me, but stay motivated is just an amazing feat of itself, not just finishing, but just staying motivated. So was the race itself what you guys expected? Did you expect maybe something different or did it exceed your expectations?
For me personally, I think it was everything I was expecting and more. Like it was more amazing than I could have expected. Like we went out there and trained in May, and like I saw the course and everything, but it was so much different actually being out there on race day with other runners, and you always had the crew cars going past, and like you're generally around the same people. So I know like bib number 25, Amy Costa, every time I went past her crew, they would like hype me up and they would cheer for me and everything. And it was so great just because I mean you make friends with people that you don't even know, and just crews, they don't even know who you are, but they'll cheer for you just, and they'll, if you ever need anything. The one time I had a bloody nose, it was kind of early on in the race. It was the first night, and I was like 2 miles away from my crew, and I was just gushing blood. So I asked a random crew if I could have a napkin. They were like, "Yeah, of course." And she like ran out to the back of her car and grabbed it. And it's so great. It's just such, it's like a family out there. And I think that's what's so amazing about it, is that you can't really understand it until you're there. I mean, my crew might be able to speak on behalf of that. Like at the finish line, just how everyone is so hyped up and everyone's so excited, everyone's hugging each other. Like I looked at all my pictures, and my favorite ones are from the finish line where everyone is just hugging each other and everyone's so happy for everyone. It was amazing. It was amazing.
So, going through your pictures, you just touched about that. I know there was a lot of pictures with some people, like say like the Harvey Lewises, like Ketra, and all those people. So how was it for you guys to meet some of these famous people that you like just only read about, and you actually get to meet them in person? And who all did you guys get to interact with?
It was so amazing. I know me and Andrew were really, really excited to meet Harvey Lewis at least. I think Fran was a little excited too. Um, but yeah, when I saw Harvey Lewis, I was like, oh my gosh, that's really Harvey Lewis. And like I went up to talk to him, and it was just like amazing because I've been following him for so many years. And like it was amazing to meet him and talk to him. And then same with Ashley Paulson. She's absolutely amazing. If y'all don't follow her, you need to go follow her right now. Um, and like when I was at the pre-race check-in thing, like she was like excited to meet me, and it was so cool that someone who was as famous as Ashley Paulson was also just as excited to meet me. And she said she was inspired by me and everything. And I was like, that means the absolute world to me, because like they're like real runners. Like they're who I want to be in a few years. And it was amazing to meet them. And they're like the most kind and genuine people. Like they just talk to you like a normal person. They don't really care that they're better than you or faster than you. They just treat you like everyone else. They're genuinely the kindest people. It was so great.
It was really cool. People were like, a lot of people were excited they knew Kaylee before we were even there. And like a lot of people, oh, I just wanted to come and meet you, and before the race even started. So like that was cool. That was cool. And then after, it just kind of built along the way. But they genuinely wanted to meet her as much as she wanted to meet them. A lot of people. So that was pretty cool.
Brandon and Andy, did you guys get to meet anybody or?
Yeah, I was pumped to meet Harvey. I'm not gonna lie. And Ashley was awesome to meet. And actually her husband, Matt, I didn't know that was Ashley's husband. I didn't really know Ashley all that well. I knew she had won it the year before, but he came up to me, and Georgianne's exactly right. We were basically treated like we were with a celebrity, with Kaylee being there. So it was cool. I don't think if we were with just a random runner, we would have had the interactions that we did. But I talked to Ashley's husband, Matt, for probably like 30 minutes before the meeting, and he was giving me advice, telling me what we needed to make sure we did with her. And I was just like, oh, what a cool guy. I don't know who that is. But and then I found out later that it was Ashley's husband. So just the fact that, he didn't need to take his time to explain this to me or or anybody that was there, but everybody, it's the whole ultra community. You hear it every time you're on any of these podcasts. But it's spectacular to have those interactions with people that we put way up there, but they were as excited to meet her as we were to meet them.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, I think having been in a running community and having moved from a lot of different locations over my lifespan, it's funny how runners are always runners. We're always a collective of people that are, just genuinely concerned for one another and helping each other out. And not that I was necessarily surprised, but I was actually a little bit surprised to see that even our folks that you follow on Instagram and Facebook, and some of these elite runners that you would kind of expect would maybe not necessarily take the time to walk up to you and say hello. They were actually incredibly friendly and wonderful, and they took the time to have like full on conversations with all of us, and it was cool. I don't really usually do the whole like let me take a picture with a celebrity person kind of thing, but I definitely did while I was down there. So it was they're very cool people, and yeah. So
I mean, I would personally be a fanboy. I'd be like, hey, I want pictures. I want, because like I always like when I meet people like that, I always like to pick their brain because everybody's different. So like when I get that opportunity, I have to be a fanboy. I mean, of course, I'm a little bit weird sometimes with that sort of thing. So can you explain the entry process into the race? And also, I know you did the Badwater Cup. If you can explain that as well a little bit.
Yeah, so to get into the race, there's a couple ways to qualify. They're all like listed on the website. And they're actually being updated for 2024. So now it's going to be harder to get in. But for whenever I got in, you had to do one of the ways to qualify was to do at least 3 100-mile races, like 100+ mile races. And so that's the way that I qualified. And so you submit your race resume, and then they also ask you questions. They'll ask you like, what does Badwater mean to you? How many people would consider you a nice person, and stuff like that. How does Badwater fit into your training plan for 2023? Like for like the year, they would just ask you a bunch of questions, and I took it very, very seriously. I had one of my teachers proofread my essays, and I told him this is more important than any college essay we're ever going to write. Well, this is Badwater, like this is more important. And yeah, like I had him like proofread it and everything. And so I submitted that and thankfully got in. And then the Ultra Cup. So Badwater hosts 3 races. They host Badwater Cape Fear, which is a 51-mile race on Bald Head Island in North Carolina in March. And then they host Badwater Salton Sea, which is an 81-mile team race in Borrego Springs, California. And it's one of the only team races, I believe, or maybe it's the only team race, because it's not a relay. It's a team race where you actually have to run with your teammates the whole time. It's teams of 2 and 3. I ran with a 3-person team with Amy Adams and Keith Straw. All of us were in the running for the Ultra Cup, but Amy Adams sadly missed the cutoff at 1:35. But Keith and I got it, and next year we're actually all hoping to go back and Ultra Cup again. We're all going to run Salton Sea again together. And then to top it off, to finish the Ultra Cup, you have to run Badwater 135.
Right. One of the questions I know people were probably curious to know is, what gear did you use, like such as like shoes and clothes? Because I know you were wearing a lot of your pictures like white attire. Like, can you explain to like people what that is?
I wore what kind of shirt was it?
Let me look
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah, my mom will tell you the exact brand it is, but it's a desert shirt, so it's like super lightweight. It's a white shirt, and then actually like the underside of the arm and down the side is actually like a mesh, so it's even more breathable because that can't be hit by the sun. So the white just keeps the sun from hitting you, which is very helpful because I would have been burnt to a crisp if I didn't wear that white shirt. And then I wore a white hat that was actually an ice hat, so you could put ice in it, which my crew was very lovely and they refilled it very quickly for me every time. And then I had a white like neck cover that went over the hat that covered my ears and neck. And then I wear shorts. Some runners actually also wore desert pants, like white pants, but I just get uncomfortable running in pants like that. So I wore shorts and just put on a lot of sunscreen. But I will say I did get heat rash pretty bad, whereas if I wore pants, I likely could have avoided that. And oh yeah, I wore Saucony Endorphin Shift 2 shoes the entire race. I didn't change my shoes once. They did me very good. I wore Ingenie socks. The toe socks helped me keep from getting blisters. I used to have a lot of issues with blisters, but since I switched over, I don't. What else did I use? The shirt is a Mojave sun shirt. Mojave sun shirt is what I used. It was great. Yeah, by Rail Riders. I don't know about the rest of my crew. I don't know about y'all. Did I use anything else that I'm forgetting?
Yeah, you use the ice bandana pretty consistently.
Yeah, I used a Nathan Runcole bandana, and then they actually quit making those, so I needed a second one. So my ma made me another ice bandana. I think that's it, and then just my Nathan handhelds.
You
I think
didn't
that's
you didn't have to use poles at all, or did you take any poles? Because I know some people use poles in pictures and some people didn't.
I actually don't think poles are allowed in this race.
No, they're not allowed in this race. The blind and deaf runner, he did have poles that were attached to a pacer that so that was how, but he was the only person that was allowed to have poles at this race.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I saw something, but I wasn't like I didn't like know who it was. So I mean, I guess that would explain it.
Poles aren't allowed. Just the blind and deaf runner. It was really cool actually. He the poles he would hold them, and then his pacer he would like put one pole on each of his pacers like waist, so then his pacer could
Attached.
Yeah, it was like attached so that his pacer could direct him, make sure he didn't like run into traffic or anything. And then they had a whistle system where like one whistle meant walk, two whistles meant run, and three whistles meant stop. So he was amazing. It was amazing that he finished that race.
But I mean, just what you just said, like the whistle system and the pole thing, dude, that's just something people don't think of or like ever experience during race. I mean, for him to even do that and like they have that communication and like partnership with somebody is just, dude, it's unheard of.
Yeah, the logistics involved with the training that must have happened with him to get to there, and the people that were on his team, because he had a lot of pacers. It was just phenomenal to see how they worked together. It was really great.
Yeah, and they must have put a lot of work in. Even the pacers
had to train with him.
Yeah, and their transitions were really quickly, and the pacers would have had to train with him, I'm sure, because running with somebody attached to you, like he wasn't being pulled or anything, but just like you have poles attached to you. He was amazing. He was really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the story itself is amazing. It's just like, again, wanting to do that in general is just, phenomenal. So what was your nutrition plan for the race?
Just to eat as much as I could, as early as I could, because the later in the race it gets, the less I can eat. I don't normally have issues with like keeping food down. I'm not good at chewing food and swallowing food. So I drank a lot of water and a lot of Tailwind, and at the stops I actually had Pedialyte too, which is the greatest thing in the world. People say it's gross, And it's gross when you're not racing, but when you're racing, Pedialyte is so amazing. It tastes so good. It's so much better than Gatorade, I tell you. And then I had how many cheese sticks?
18.
18 cheese sticks during the race. Lot of cheese sticks I ate. What else? Y'all would know what I ate. They made me eat food. You asked them what I ate.
Mushy ham.
So how vital was it for you in general, like to have a crew that knew your needs during the race?
Very. I think especially my ma, because my ma knows how I race, and my ma knows that I'm not good at eating and stuff. I mean, I've gotten a lot better than I used to be. And Andrew and Fran told me after the race that if they needed something done, they told my ma because I would listen to my ma. So it was very, very good that she was there. And then like Andrew and Fran, you know, they didn't know me super well, and John, like they didn't know me super well, but they knew me well enough that like it worked out. And I mean, the longer we went, the better they got. I'm sure, like knowing what I wanted and what I needed. And like I know like Andrew and my ma kept track of like salt tabs and like how often I was taking them and when to take them. Oh, Fran was too. Oh, everyone did so good.
Yeah, we actually like kept a log, I guess, at almost all of the aid stops, like where we wrote down what she ate, how much water or whatever she had in her bottle, how much was left, if there was any left, if we put ice on her head, if we exchanged anything we did, we wrote down at almost all of the aid stops. There was a few that we missed.
It was so many.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Guys.
So, and we also tried to we marked the time. Most of the time, there was a few that we missed, and we tried to mark the temperature like throughout it as well, just to have kind of a record for us going forward, right? You know, because this isn't the last race by any means. There's going to be more, and potentially it'll be next year too, and you know, all of this stuff. So that'll just help us have a good solid base of knowing what was really good. So something she's tried this year, because we heard very good things about it, was a supplement called Perpetuum. It is made by Hammer. And so we got it earlier this year, and it has some protein in it, and carbs are the two big things that are in there, which you don't get from like the supplements like Tailwind. But it's also something that you drink, and a lot of times the drinks are easier to tolerate in people's stomachs versus eating when you're like in the heat and doing these things. So we got that earlier this year, and she tried it, and it was something that didn't hurt her stomach. But out here, actually, she only used it twice, and she didn't even use all of it. So I just, after a couple of times of having that, trying to get her to drink it, it was like, nope, we're just nixing that, because it wasn't working well, because she wasn't drinking then. So that ended up not working. So like that was something we learned, and we won't use that anymore, right? Like we're just leave that alone and move on from it. So that's all part of this too, is the learning along the way, right? Yeah.
Well, that's actually very smart, because most people wouldn't even think about that. Writing stuff down to keep not like accountability of what you used, what you didn't use, what worked, what didn't work. Most people don't have that kind of mindset to even think about that. So that's going to be huge to help her down the road as she continues forward, just kicking more asses at different races. So like touching with the crew again, you guys did some group runs all together. Did you guys like really feel like you got a feel for like her needs and what she might want during a race because of those, or any information about that?
You guys go.
Yeah, I only ran with her once. It was a Johnstown running group run, and she was playing with the cows half the time. So we hadn't had a chance. We wanted to. We planned on doing several more, but everybody's schedules just seemed so busy. And Kaylee ran this was her 10th ultra, I think, so far this year. So it's tough to fit in runs when you have so many things scheduled. So we only ran once together prior, and I actually never ran with Fran. So this was kind of a first for us getting together when we got off the plane in Vegas and then drove to Lone Pine and got together.
Yeah, and I actually kind of I have to say something similar. I ran with Kaylee and Georgetta once before the race, and it was actually more of a regular run. We weren't doing anything long distance. It was just the Jim Mayer Trail. So we kept a pretty decent pace. It wasn't an ultra marathon pace. We were doing probably like an 8:30-minute mile up and back. And I think more than that, it was more of just to kind of get a sense of like camaraderie a little bit, just to kind of like talk a little bit with one another. Because again, I knew Georgetta a little bit more than Kaylee, but my interactions were still fairly limited. I mean, we're all like crazy busy, and it was one of those things where it was really great when we did land in California. We got a chance to actually like sit down and talk with one another. I got to run with Andrew a couple times out in California as well, which was kind of cool. So I think more than anything, what really helped for me at least was I've run enough ultras and I've done enough crewing in the past where I kind of already had a pretty good sense of what was going to come my way. And I think more than anything, I think as long as you kind of put down right in the beginning, my mission is to make sure that Kaylee makes it through the best way possible, the most efficient way possible, and to listen to your crew chief as you go through this process. Everything will kind of work out. And I think Andrew and John were all on board with that as well. It was sort of like we came together as a team very nicely.
I feel like we got out there we left on Sunday, like Sunday in the afternoon, and then we didn't get out there till like Monday. And I feel like by the time we were there on Monday, I felt like we had all already been together for like a week, even though it was only like a day. Like, I feel like I got to know y'all so quickly. Like, it was crazy.
So we did have like a Facebook Messenger group where we talked about a lot of things somewhat regularly in there, and we did have a few calls like where we were all on something like this, just to ask questions and things like that. So it was very much, we did the expectations were put out there, and everybody just rose to the occasion of what was expected. Very, very well. So, there were specific instructions on certain things that you needed to bring. For example, your long sleeves white, your hat, advice on shoes, but there were certain things that were absolutely necessary, and everybody did that. There were no issues, none whatsoever with the crew. Anytime doing anything, like it was really, really great.
Yeah, well, that's nice you guys came together, because at other races that I've seen, crews, like per se, as I use those like air quotes, like sometimes they just get thrown together and it becomes like the crew becomes more of like an eye instead of like an actual crew, and the crew sort of is not there in the best interest of the runner itself. But like knowing all you guys in general, like you guys are such awesome people in general. I know you guys would put like all like her needs in front of your own needs, which is critical in a race like this. So during the race itself, how did you actually stay positive? Because in a long race like this, you probably hit some low points. So how did you stay positive, and did you actually get to any like low points in the race where you're like, oh, this just sucks, or the heat's just like killing me at all?
There were some points where it definitely wasn't fun. Just because it was really, my feet hurt pretty bad. And I mean, I got like in the second night, I was so tired. The sleep deprivation was like the worst part of the whole race. There was never a point where I wanted to like quit though, because I knew I had so much time that like we were there. I could have broken my leg and I would have had time from the last checkpoint to crawl to the top of the mountain, which is what I would have done. But I knew I had so much time, like quitting was never an option, even whenever I was tired and my feet hurt. I just I took breaks whenever I needed to. And I think it was also really helpful that I didn't really have a goal. I mean, 40 hours was like I thought in the beginning it was a good target, but as I went, I was missing the cutoffs for them, but I didn't really care because I just wanted to finish in 40 hours and that's all that matters. I think it was good that my crew was also under the same impression, so they weren't like pushing me to the point where I was overexerting myself because they knew that I knew my body well enough and they were all just there to get me to the finish, not to get me first place or anything like that. So I think it was good. And I just, I really ran with someone the whole time because I ran with Keith over the first 50 miles and then I had a crew after that. So just having someone to talk to and everything, it just made it very, very, pretty much the whole thing was really pleasant. I said I only cried one time, and that's because I realized when I plugged my watch in that it stops the run. My old watch didn't do that, so that's why on my Strava it's split up into like 5 different runs. But yeah,
That moment was not a nice moment. She was really she really cried. She did.
I was so sad that my watch stopped.
We had to just get through that and understand that in the big scheme of things, that doesn't matter, right? We're still out here, we're still doing what we're doing. So what does it matter that the watch says, right? So after a few minutes of that little tears going by, she had to get over it, right? It's okay. And she did, after that, there was no more talk about it and just move on. So that was good.
So is there anything that you think you would have done differently during the race? Like either maybe even before the race or after, or more importantly, I guess, during?
Well, to be honest, during the race, I really wouldn't change anything that happened during the race. I'm sure there's things that we could have done better and that I learned for next time, but I think it was just such an amazing experience that I wouldn't want to change anything. Even the low points, whenever I was super tired and stuff, I wouldn't even want to change that because that's what makes it Badwater and that's what makes it ultramarathoning. It's not easy. But if we could change anything about the entire trip, I would definitely go out a day earlier just in case there are issues with rental cars and luggage and things like that. And also just to make sure you can get like a full day of rest because we did not have a full day of rest before the race. So I would recommend going out instead of like we got there on July 3rd and the race was the 4th. I would want to get there on the 2nd. So like fly out on the 1st, get there the 2nd. I think that would make it a lot less stressful before the race.
Also for leaving, right? That our travel was a very jam-packed trip. And that was on me. I did that. And I chose to do that for particular reasons, having to do with taking off work and lots of things. But next time we will allow like an extra day, probably on either end. Because when she was done with the race, we hung out at the finish line for a while, and then we went back. We had to pack our stuff and get showers and then go to the pizza party, which was from 7 until 9, but it was almost 10 o'clock when it was over. Went back, got a couple hours of sleep, and we're up and out by 3 a.m. And we had all not slept, pretty much not much, right? And so then we have a 4.5-hour drive back to the car rental place on no sleep in the dark. So like that was a poor choice on my end. So like I would definitely do that differently going forward.
So you just touched on sleep a little bit and like the sleeplessness. How did you guys all manage sleeping during the race? Because obviously it's a 48-hour race like window. Like, did you guys like have a schedule? Did you guys like sleep at all? I mean, how much sleep did Kaylee get during the race?
Well, for me, I planned on taking one 20-minute nap at Father Crowley because I thought when I got to Father Crowley, I was going to be doing that climb in the dark. It was going to be night, and that's about mile 82. So I was going to sleep at the top of there. But then when I got there, it was actually still daylight. So the next big checkpoint was Darwin, which was a mile 90, right? Or it was like 8 or 10 more miles, something like that. And it was still daylight, and I didn't want to stop because I knew the sun was going to be setting, so it was going to get cooler. So I didn't want to waste that section when it was still light out, but it was cooler. There was going to be a breeze. The sun was going to be going down. So I just ran that into Darwin. And at the end of that section, when it was actually dark, because it was maybe 9:30 when I got to Darwin. No, it was 10 o'clock when I left. It was like 9:30 when I got there. I was definitely getting really tired. I was with Andrew, and he was like, "You just got to keep going so you can get there and you can nap." I was like, "I know, but I just didn't want to because I was so tired." So I slept for 20 minutes at Darwin, which was mile 90, and then between Darwin and Olancha, which is where the reroute was, that was the second night section. I actually ended up sleeping for 2 more 10-minute naps and 1 more 5-minute nap, which weren't planned, but it was necessary because I'm on the road walking and I can just feel myself falling asleep and I just start swerving all over the road, and that's dangerous. So I would just take a quick nap. I would sit down in the lawn chair and I say, "Give me a 9-minute, like tell me when 9 minutes is up," and then they would tell me and I would get up and I'd be on my way then. And then the crew, I don't know how they slept. I don't know what they did. You can ask them.
I'll let somebody else talk here.
I didn't get much sleep the first 20 something hours. I was up pretty much the whole time. I think I had maybe a 10-minute nap here or there. And then when we got to the second night, I found a nice system. Georgetta was running with Kaylee. We'd go about 1.5 miles, I think, sections. And Fran and John were actually getting a nap in. So I wanted to leave them alone so they could get some sleep. So I would drive. Once they left the aid station, I'd pull out, go about 1.5 miles, and I'd get the chair out. I'd get water filled up for the next time they come through. And then any food she wanted, I'd have ready. And then I'd get back in the driver's seat and I'd fall asleep for like 15 or 20 minutes until Kaylee would make it back to the vehicle. So I did that for probably 3 or 4 straight shifts. And that gave me probably the bulk of my sleep for the time being. And then I had a few Red Bulls after that, and I was pretty good the rest of the way until the race was over. Then all I wanted to do was sleep from that point on.
Yeah, so I was a little bit different, I guess, because I don't have that much trouble just kind of like sleeping on the fly. So I think I got teased a little bit for it, but I think there was one point where I took like a solid 2-hour nap and I just clocked out. And then like probably, I don't know, like 8 hours later, I took another like 2-hour nap and I clocked out. When I wasn't in my nap modes, I was pretty much alert and wandering around and helping with the crewing and the pacing. It was funny because I remember one of our we were teasing each other a little bit because Georgetta and Andrew were not necessarily sleeping as much as John and I. John would take more of these little tiny cat naps every now and then, and I was just like, I had my like block that I took. But they found their nap times and they did pretty well at like taking these small little naps, keeping themselves in good standing. And I did laugh at the very end. We were only like 10 miles out from the finish, and I wandered out of the vehicle to go take some pictures of some trees that were dead and damaged from a fire that happened the year before. And when I got back to the van, all I saw was Andrew and John with their heads cocked back on. I stood out laughing. I think I woke Andrew up at that point.
I mean, you guys got to sleep because you got to like do your duty. So, I mean, when you fit it in, you got to fit it in, I guess. So you guys, Georgetta and Kaylee, you guys went out a month beforehand, roughly. the preview of the course, do you think that helped you at all? Like prepare? Would you want to do like something like that again for like a longer race, like to go out and actually like preview it?
I think it was very helpful, not even so much just for the heat training, but to see the course because we drove the entire course. So I'd seen the entire course and before like I would talk to my friends and they would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a nap at Panamint Springs." And I'm like, "Okay," but I had no idea what that was, where that was. Was that at the top of a hill? Like I had no clue what it meant. I could look at the elevation map and stuff, but it's so much different than actually being out there and seeing it. And that's why, like when I planned my Father Crowley nap and I wanted to do it there because I knew it was at the top of a climb. I wanted to finish the climb and then sleep, and like at least get there. So I think it was very helpful, one for the heat training, but just to know the course, know what I was expecting, and to know for the crew, for my ma and them, where they were going to need to get gas and ice because there were only 3 places on the entire course where you could buy ice and get gas and everything. So when you got to those places, you had to know what you wanted and you had to get everything for the next 50 miles.
So
Very
obviously,
helpful, but
oh, go ahead.
it was definitely very beneficial too for me as a person, right? To see the course, to see the stores, to actually go into the stores that were available. We got to talk to the people, the owners, and say like, do you run out of ice? Like, is that something that happens when this race is happening? And they say, no, we don't run out of ice because we order extra. So like that little bits of information were big things that helped calm us. Well, like that just eased the nerves a little bit to know that they as the town were going to be prepared for us coming through there and not run out of things. So that was very good. And the one gas station, actually their pumps didn't work. So that was something that we had to deal with, it was not a huge deal for us. There was a little bit of a sketchy coming down. We were going to get gas there and then their pumps weren't working and we had to drive another 30 miles. And I was like, I hope we don't run out of gas, but we didn't. But that was actually before the race started. It was when we were heading to the start line. So, but like those things really matter. Like that kind of stuff really matters. So it was definitely beneficial to see the course out. Now, like next year, I don't know that going out there beforehand I don't think that would be necessary because we already now have a good, strong idea of what the course is and how to train here as much as we could to be ready for it.
So Badwater itself starts at a very low elevation and then gains a whole bunch. How was the elevation change and could you actually feel it from start to finish, like the difference?
I mean, I don't think I could feel the difference like altitude wise. I know some people times you deal with like breathing is like different at higher altitudes and stuff. I didn't really feel a difference. Other than when I was climbing, I didn't want to be climbing anymore. But to be honest, I think the first climb was definitely the worst one, which surprised me. I thought the Father Crowley climb would be the worst, but I also thought I was going to be there at night, and I was ahead of where I thought I was going to be. So the first climb was definitely the most difficult. I think it was like 17 miles of climbing. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy race, and you got 135 miles to do, and this ain't Florida where it's going to be flat. I mean, it's California, so I mean, you got a big stretch where there can be some huge elevation changes. I guess just be thankful, I guess, that it's not 50,000 feet or anything crazy.
Yeah, 14,000 was definitely, it was manageable, like it was doable,
So, did you guys have any weird or funny? Oh, go ahead, friend.
That's not me. That's a small curly chop.
Oh,
He's talking. Sorry.
Do you guys have any weird or funny stories you guys like to share? Like whether it be before or during or after the race?
I'm good. Any on the crew have anything good?
I still love the suitcase story of Georgetta's suitcase getting accidentally taken in the airplane when we were leaving Vegas, I think it was, right? And they had the exact same suitcase, and a guy grabbed it, and we had to run through the airport to track it down. So that was definitely something I don't think any of us had planned for. And I was actually not sitting with them. I was up a little further, and I was waiting in the airport, like, well, I wonder what's taking so long. And they came out, and they did not look excited. And I'm like, oh, well, I was thinking, hey, we made it here, we're good to go. But yeah, that was an interesting uh part of the race that none of us were expecting to have happen.
Like it on my desk.
Another happening that was that was unpleasant, I'm going to say, that was I had a car rental at Fox for a minivan, and so when we got off the plane, got the luggage back, thank goodness, so happy that we got that back, and then we went to get on the shuttle to go to the car rental place, and the shuttle guy pulls up and he gets out and he says, there are no cars. And we're like, what? We have a reservation, you know? And so at that point, we decided to split up. Kaylee and I went to the car rental place that we had a reservation at, which was Fox. And Fran and Andrew stayed where we were, where there were other car rental places, to go see if there were any cars there. And so we got to Fox, and they were like, people didn't return the cars, whatever. I don't totally believe that, but I think they overbooked. And we just got there too late, and we didn't get a car. So they told us that a 4Runner was coming in around 3:30, and Andrew and Fran found over there that there was a truck available somewhere, but a truck would not be ideal for what we were doing. So we decided to just wait for the 4Runner at 3:30. So that kind of killed some of our sleeping time. And it was not good. It was not a good situation, because like, that was just not cool, right? I mean, this was a major thing, and we just lost 2 hours of sleep because somebody overbooked something. And that was an unnecessary stress on us, but we got through it, thankfully. And thankfully, those two things were really the only two things that happened that were not good, and they were both in Vegas. So we were like, back there, no more Vegas, like, right?
Yeah.
Now, during the race itself, what was you guys' strategy for helping her? Was it like you were touching about it a little bit, like here and there, but I didn't get the full grasp of it. Like, how many miles did you guys each do before you switched, or or was it like based off of time, and how did you guys manage that?
Well, at the beginning, we decided that each person was going to go through 2 stops, whether that be 1.5 miles or 2 miles or whatever, because sometimes the distance would change a little bit. So we did that for quite a while, from mile 42, probably up till about dark. Then once the second darkness comes, things change around a little bit. So then it kind of just changed. Sometimes we went 3, sometimes we went 1. It just kind of depended, but we did have a rotation. So it was me, then John, then Fran, and then Andrew, and we stuck with that same rotation with her as a pacer then. And so, like, if I knew that I was going to go 2 times, I would try to let John know that, so that he could sleep or whatever he needed to do in between there, so that he would know when it was expected for him to go again, about a time, I mean. And for as far as like getting things ready for her when she was there, it was whoever was there. We just got in this, it was just a good, like, I don't know if I want to call it a routine, but it just kind of was. Andrew and I kind of took turns driving, and like Fran and John would just do different things, filling up the ice bandanas and just getting things ready for the next time. And so for that, we didn't really have a plan so much, but we just kind of figured out how to do it, and we just did it. So
So, Kaylee, was this actually the hardest race you've done so far to date?
To be honest, oh man, to be honest, I don't really know. It was not easy, but I think my first 100 miler was still probably harder. Um, and that's just because I did not train for my first 100 miler. Um, so which was my own fault. But aside from actual like terrain and heat wise, it was obviously the hardest. Because I've never run in anything nearly that hot. But I think physically I was worse during my first 100 mile race, and that was my own fault, my own lack of training and everything. But I definitely put in enough training to this race though to make it doable to the point where I didn't want to die. At the end, I was tired. I had my highs and lows, but like at the end, I was still moving, and I was extremely happy at the end. You can ask any of them.
There's really no way to prepare for a first 100 miler. I mean, you basically have to suffer through it and then move on from there and then learn. So, like, I would say, like, probably on par with that is like, it would be your first is probably going to be your hardest. No matter how hard Badwater is itself, you got to get through that first one because you just don't know how your body's going to react. So you already touched on this a little bit again. It sounds like you plan on doing Badwater 135 again.
Oh, of course, of course, of course. Next year, our Salton C team again, me, Amy, and Keith. If we could all Ultra Cup, we want to do that again. We're all going to run Salton C together, and we're all going to run Cape Fear, and we're hoping to all get back into Badwater. I'm guessing Keith will get in because it'll be his 10th like next year will be his 10th finish if he gets it. And I'm hoping Amy gets in, and I'm really, really, really hoping I get in. But if I get in, I will definitely be returning, and I will gladly take any of my crew back because they were all very, very, very wonderful.
So with a mental like mindset that you have to have for this race, how did you keep your mind on task and in a good mental state? And what was your game plan going in? And did you differentiate it at all while running the race?
I mean, my mindset, like, I mean, when I'm running, I keep my mind on, I just try and keep it off of the task at hand, you know. I do a lot of math, I count a lot. I just say to myself, left, right, every time my foot hits the ground in my head. I do a lot of that type of thing. But I was also just trying to enjoy the moment because a lot of times at races, especially if I'm like at Laurel Highlands, like I was actually competing, so I was so focused on just pushing through the pain and just like going. But this, I was actually trying to enjoy it and like be in the moment because it was truly a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I was trying to enjoy every single high and every single low. Whenever I said this sucks, I hate running, I was trying to enjoy it because, you know, I earned that. I earned that suffering. I earned that. So like I wanted to not focus on the 135 miles. I would just focus on, okay, they're only going 2 miles away. And I'd also focus on my next big checkpoints, which were like the towns, like Town Pass, Panama Springs, Darwin, and everything. But like at the same time, I also was trying to just like let it all sink in because it wasn't just your average little run. It was truly life-changing.
Did you study the race at all, like, and watch videos like on YouTube or anything like that beforehand?
Yeah, there's like a documentary on YouTube. I think it was from 2018, I believe, that I watched, and I watched a lot of videos. I watched a lot of finishing videos just of people finishing because I was so hyped up and I love to see the people finish. But I did watch a lot of videos about how people trained and everything.
Now, during the race, again, I'll say it before, during, or after. What was the coolest thing that you guys actually saw during your experience out there?
For me personally, I think it was just like not necessarily the finish, but like the finish and just the camaraderie and the Badwater family, which was at the finish, but it was at the pizza party, it was at the pre-race stuff, it was just everywhere. I think the coolest part of the race was really just everyone being there. Aside from the Badwater family, but the actual course itself, one of the coolest points was when I was with Fran at the end, and I was just like, Fran, like, look out there. You see that? Like, you see that road? You see those mountains? Like, we climbed over those mountains. We came from that road 135 miles over there. And, like, as far as course, it was definitely at the end, at the very top of Windy Portal on those switchbacks, just looking out and seeing where you came from. That was my favorite part. What was your favorite part, Matt?
My favorite part was the finish line. So that was a good thing. Yeah, how about you guys?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fran.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I have to agree. I think it was like the last leg that I did as a pacer with Kaylee because we could see exactly where we were coming from, and it was just insane. And thankfully, I think I caught a little bit of it on video. It was a blast just listening to Kaylee get all hyped up. She was ready. She was like, "I'm getting to that finish line. My buckle. It's 3 miles away. Let's go get it." And I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome." So it was very cool.
Yeah, the finish is definitely the best, not only to watch her finish, but I was really happy it was over as well. At that point, I just wanted to go to sleep. But the coolest part that I had as a pacer, Kaylee and I were like 6 miles out from Panama Springs, and you could see it, and it looked like it was maybe a mile and a half away. And we kept running, and it kept getting further away, or at least it seemed like it was getting further away. And there was like a downhill and then a small uphill. And the downhill kept getting longer, and the uphill seemed to get shorter and shorter. And there was a different colored dirt in the middle that started at the middle, and then we were past it, and it was behind us. It was just really weird. It was like an optical illusion the whole time. And while we were in that section, one of the fighter jets flew over, and it seemed like it was just barely off the ground, but we could hear it before we could see it, and then it zoomed by us. So that was a pretty cool experience. That all happened in like a very short period of time.
All right. I didn't know, like, cause I know there's a like long stretches of openness and whatnot. Was there actually a lot of crowd support along the route?
Not really like outside crowd support, I wouldn't say, but like the crews that I talked to people before, and they said the race usually gets pretty spread out by Ferns Creek, which is like 17 miles in, but the race did not spread out. Like obviously it spread out a lot, but like more than the 100 runners that were there, you weren't with them. But I'm on the last climb, and I can see 5 people in front of me and behind me. Like there, at least for me, I don't know about everyone else where they were at in the course, but there were always people around. There were always crew vehicles. So like, I mean, it was kind of reassuring to know too that even if I was running and I like ran out of ice or something, it didn't happen because my crew was great and they made sure I had everything. But if I would have needed something, there was always a crew vehicle, and other crews they're like asked to help if a runner needs help, you help them. It doesn't matter if it's your runner or not. Like, so it was great.
I was actually concerned a little bit about the very beginning when the race started. So it did start in 3 waves, which is good. I was glad of that. So Kaylee was in the 8 o'clock wave, and how many started with you?
30?
About 30
39,
people?
no more, like
Oh,
39.
Okay, so then you got 39 crews, right? And we are all stopping along the sides of the road. And you it's kind of limited where you can park in some places because it's sand, and you cannot park in the soft sand or your vehicle is going to get stuck. So we had to be cautious of where we were parking. So I was actually concerned at the beginning with all of those people, whether or not we would find a place to park, but we actually didn't have any trouble with that. I feel like we did pretty good with finding places to park, and I don't think we had an issue with that, but I was concerned about that, but thankfully it didn't happen.
Because since
Yeah, and
everybody's got to have their own crew, you're going to have your own vehicle, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and to Kaylee's point on that, like when we would leave, like her, when she would start running again, and we would go a mile and a half. I know a mile and a half on 135 miles doesn't sound like a big stretch. You would pass probably 10 or 15 cars or more. And so every time a runner would go by, we would be cheering them on. And every time Kaylee would run by, so the support along the way was not necessarily outsiders, other than we had one that kept popping up, Ursula. She found her way to us a few times, but most of the support was other crews, just passing them back and forth, cheering everybody on.
Right. So actually, now that you're home and relaxed a little bit, how do you feel a couple of days later? Like, is your body starting to like get back into normal mode, or you still need a little bit more rest day?
I feel pretty good. Honestly, the thing that hurt the most was my mouth, because my mouth got really, really swollen and all cut up. My braces like destroyed the inside of my mouth, which I've never had happen during a race before. So I'm not really sure, but like it looked like after the race, it looked like I just had Botox on my bottom lip. So my friend Star and I were saying, like, my mouth was just so swollen.
Wasn't funny, but it looked funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But once that got better and I got my voice back, I sounded very, very, very bad. I sounded like a dying cat. My throat didn't hurt. I just couldn't talk after the race, but I feel pretty good. I'm probably gonna run a little bit tomorrow, like a mile or two, not like nothing long, but just kind of shake out a little bit and see how I feel. I'm pretty good. I'm still definitely behind on sleep, but I'll just periodically catch up on that.
I only got a couple more things I wanted to touch on. So who actually inspires you people, and like all you guys in general, to want to run and be able to like do things and support a race like this?
Well, I mean, the person who inspired me to do the race in the first place was Keith Straw, because he told me about it. He believed in me that I could do it, and he's like one of the biggest reasons that I was able to do the race. And so definitely him, and there's just other people I've met along the way that are super inspiring and that have helped me so much. Peter Y, he's a great, great, great guy. He's helped me so much. Kristen, like people like that who just helped me a lot. And I just want to keep running and make everyone proud, and my pa. I gotta make my pa proud one of these days. But one of these days I'll make my pa proud.
I'm sure he is already, because just the things that you've done already in your life. I mean, you've done some very amazing things, not just in the running community, but just in the community itself. Like, I know you're very an active person, like through band and like soccer and other sports like that, and just CrossFit, and just in general, like you and your mother, just in general, are just such nice, genuine people. Like, nobody could ever say anything bad about you people, because you people are like, both of you and your sister are just amazing people in general. Like, it's so nice to know you, and I'm sure Andrew and Fran will, and everybody who meets you has to say the same thing, because it's just the type of people you are. You're just such nice, genuine people, not only to people you interact with, but just strangers in general.
Well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate it. We try.
Yeah. They think we're all here. We all are here on this earth to make it a better place, right? We all have something we can do to make this world a better place. And it's just a matter of finding it. Like, I think every person has the ability to do something, one thing better than anybody else. And it's just a matter of finding that. So I'm super glad to see when people find their thing. I think that's just super awesome. And so like one of Kaylee's things, I don't think is her only thing, but one of her things is running. And so it's just awesome to see that and to foster it and to help it grow, and it's just great. Like, and then what comes to that? All the ripples, right? It's inspiring others by trying and pushing yourself through hard things, and showing people that they can do things they didn't think they could do, you know, and I think that's a lot of what it's about.
Yeah, Andy or Fran, you guys got anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I know it's a corny answer, but Kaylee was the inspiration behind this. This was all about her. And as soon as she put it out there, if it was, you know, a 35-year-old that was going out to Badwater that I barely knew or didn't know at all, I don't think I would be of nearly as interested as, you know, flying across the country to crew for. But to see an 18-year-old, and I have a daughter myself that's 7, I would hope that she would look up to somebody like Kaylee. For an 18-year-old to do what she's done already, not including Badwater, but now including Badwater, I just wanted to be a part of it. And like Fran said earlier, there was no doubt in my mind that she was going to finish. So I wanted to go and watch her become the youngest finisher of Badwater. So that was my motivation behind joining the crew from the get-go.
Yeah, I don't know that I have much to add to that. Honestly, I think you know, when it comes down to, you know, taking a position as a crew member, really ultimately it comes down to who you're crewing. Are you crewing someone that you can stand behind 100%? You know, not only are they a fantastic runner, they're going to complete the task, they're going to be successful with a good team around them. Sure, a lot of runners can say that. Maybe not as many for Badwater 135. But for me, especially with how my time is sort of constrained. I mean, I have 2 kids. I work full time. I'm always running around doing some crazy nonsense. So for me, just finding the motivation to take that extra time, it really has to be someone that's special. It's got to be someone that I really believe in. And I think with Kaylee, I think she's inspirational to an incredible number of people, not just other young kids, but also full grown adults. I mean, they can look at someone like Kaylee and say, you know what, if you know, Kaylee found the motivation to do something like that at year 18 of her life, what am I doing stagnating here at 35 or 40 years of age? You know, so it's one of those things where she's accomplished something pretty amazing. And I don't know that it's sunk in for everyone that's a part of this collective and in this town. But I think once that story gets out a little bit more, you're going to find a lot more people wanting to buy those Team Kaylee shirts.
So what is the next thing you plan on doing, or do you have any big goals that you might want to, or just a race in general that you have coming up that you're looking forward to?
I'm signed up for 7 ultras so far for the rest of the year. So that'll put me at 17 ultras in total for the year. So I was thinking maybe I could just throw in like 3 more ultras, not like races. I could just do them by myself to get to 20 ultras, just like, you know, like training runs, but make them ultras so that I could get like 20 in for the year. I think would be cool. But my next race is Eastern States on August 12th, which is definitely going to be another hard race. I'm definitely putting my 2 hardest races of the year like back to back to each other, because Badwater and Eastern States are definitely going to be my 2 hardest races of the year, I think. And I'm excited for it, though. I think I've trained a lot, and Badwater was definitely good for time on the feet and just being awake, and, you know, good to practice being awake and tired and having to keep going. And now once I'm like completely recovered in a couple of days, I'm going to get back to hammering the elevation training and get back on the grind. So I'll be good to go for Eastern States and make sure I can finish that one.
Yeah, that's sort of like the two ends of the spectrum as far as extremes. It's like you just did Badwater, which is just like the extreme road end, and now you're gonna go do Eastern States, which is like an extreme trail end. So it's gonna be like interesting to see how like you feel like about each one of those like after you finish them, which I know you're going to, which is like how you feel like compared to like the hardness. Like, was it going to be Badwater's going to be harder, or was going to be like Eastern going to be harder? It's going to be nice to see what you feel about that afterwards.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm honestly interested to answer that question too, because people were talking and they were like, well, now you ran Badwater, so all your other races would just be so much easier. And I'm like, well, actually, I have Eastern States coming up, and that's going to be probably one of the hardest races I've ever run. So I'm definitely interested too to see the answer to that question about which I think is harder.
So you have, as I touched on when we first started this, you have such community support behind you. You know, some of it's more up front, some of it's more behind the scenes. I know there was a group of people that actually came to your house and decorated it. So when you guys arrived home, so how does it feel to have so much backing and support, not just locally, but I guess it's starting to glow globally.
Pretty cool. I actually like didn't realize I might have said this already, but I didn't realize how many people were actually following me until I got done and got on Facebook and saw all the notifications, and it took me forever. I was like in the airport just going through forever, which I'm not complaining. It was amazing to just see and go through and see how many people were sharing my post, and to see like as people posted updates and how many people commented and everything. I had people texting me saying like I'm supposed to be at work, and but I haven't paid attention to work in so long because I'm watching you, or like I'm surprised the page didn't crash because I've refreshed it so many times and everything. It's honestly amazing to know that so many people are following me because I'm just a normal person. I just graduated high school. I'm just starting to live my life. And it's amazing to know that so many people are following me and that I can actually make an impact on people and actually inspire people, even though I'm just normal person. It's pretty cool.
I know personally, like, my news feed blew up like all day long. Every time you hit like a different checkpoint, there was probably like 30 people just on my feed, like posting, oh, like, here we go. So it was very interesting to see. And I actually stayed up to like that 2 a.m. one. And then I was like, all right, I got to get to bed. I was like, I need to get some sleep. So I was following along. But it was amazing to see how many people just even like on my own news feed, just like reposting, like retweeting and stuff like that throughout the day. So,
Yeah.
is there anything that I didn't cover that you guys want to add to the conversation at all?
I don't really have anything from the running perspective. I'm just so thankful for everyone on my crew that literally are the reason that I finished the race because I could not have done it without them. I'm thankful for all the other runners that were out there and the people who are pushing themselves, pushing their limits, and all the volunteers, Chris for the race, and the whole community and everything. I'm just so thankful for every single person who played a part in this race somehow, whether they just followed along on Facebook or they were actually there. I'm just so thankful for everyone who helped me in this journey.
And we're definitely grateful too. Like we did do fundraising. We weren't going to do that. A friend of mine suggested that we do that. And like, I cannot believe, I just can't even believe we hit the goal that we were intending to hit, which was 15,000. And I don't know yet because I didn't figure out how much money we actually spent because we went anyway, I don't know how much money we spent, so I got to figure that out. But it was absolutely amazing, like that the people in the community and outside of the community, like that just were supporting her there in that, because she was going to pay for this, not me. I do not have the funds to pay for this because it is very expensive to do these races. The entry fee for the 135 was what, $1,650?
$1,595, but after the ultra sign up fees, it was $1,651.
Okay, so that's a right there is a big entry fee. And then we got, we got flights, we got rooms, we got food, we got car rentals. I mean, it's a lot of money. And so she was willing to pay for that, for money that she has saved for the last 3 years from working over the summer. Because I just am financially not able to do that. In the community, like, just holy hell, like, it was just great to see what people were willing to do with buying shirts and participating in the cornhole tournament and all this stuff. That was just amazing. I thought, I just really couldn't even believe that. I could not believe that that happened. So it was amazing, that too. So it was awesome because people were like, we just want to be part of the team, like, we want to see her do this, and we can't be there, but this is how we can help. So that was awesome. So thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you to everybody who helped us in any way get to there.
Yeah, the community was really, really, I mean, generous. Like, generous is not even like the word to describe it. It's like so much more than generous.
Yes.
Like how they just, like, financially and just like supporting you guys in any way possible.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Fran or Andrew, do you have anything you want to add?
Just that it was a privilege to be a part of the team. I'm sure, signing up for this and then putting it out there, asking for crew members, I would think that they would have a lot of options. Maybe it came down to just, 3 of us that they had to choose, but they chose me regardless. And I'm thankful for that. I'm happy to have been a part of the experience. And it's awesome that I got to meet all 3 of them, 4 of them, including John, a lot better. It's amazing how much you'll learn about somebody being stuck in a van or a 4Runner and an airplane and in a hotel room for 4 days. You'll learn a lot about people, but I've gotten to be friends with all of them, and I'm thankful for that opportunity, grateful for it. And Kaylee's truly an inspiration at 18 to do what she does. So it's wonderful to have been part of the team.
Yeah, for sure. I fall into the same boat, really. Honestly, I feel very blessed to have been selected to be a part of the team, and I had a blast. I enjoyed myself every minute of sleep deprivation and stinky moment, because you got that many people over that much time running and not changing or showering or anything. We did not smell good at all. And we gave each other big stinky hugs in the end. It was all great. Like, every moment was perfect. And I think it all comes down to, you have a lot of really great people all working together for the same goal of getting Kaylee all the support that she needs to get her mission accomplished. And she did exactly that. So I'm very thankful.
All right. Well, I guess that's about it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Fran, for not only being on here, but supporting Kaylee and being part of her crew. Thank you, Georgetta, for, again, the same things. You raised 2 wonderful children. And Kaylee, congratulations once again for finishing the race, being brave enough. Most people aren't even brave enough or have the mindset to even want to do something like this. So congratulations again on such a huge accomplishment. I'm looking forward to running alongside you at Eastern States next month, seeing you out on the other race courses, watching you do other things that you're doing, because I think you're the next generation coming up. Obviously, you're 18 years old, but you're the next generation coming up right now in the running community that's going to be handed the torch from us older folk. I could say us older folk here, because we got like 15, 20 years on you, but you're the next generation that's going to be kicking ass and inspiring people for years to come.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I promise I won't let you older folk down. I'll carry the torch good.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, good night.
All right. You guys have a good night, and I guess I'll see you guys all soon.
All right, bye.
Thanks, Dean.